Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining, and delighted to be here to be able to support you today and provide you with some guidance, advice and support around some of the topical issues that we're currently experiencing around energy, and the cost of doing business, the cost of living, and generally how you can receive support and take simple steps to save money and reduce carbon and reduce costs. So I'm the CEO of Place Support Partnership, and we deliver cost reduction solutions and sustainable solutions to business improvement districts and local authorities nationally, engaging directly with businesses across the country. And over the course of the last couple of years, we've saved close to £8 million and worked with tens of thousands of businesses. Our focus is purely to support businesses, to guide, advise, and support them to become more sustainable and reduce their operating costs. And it's something that me and the team here have been delivering across the country for almost 15 years. So that's a little bit about us, but this is more about the challenges that we're facing. So what will the webinar cover today? So we're going to explore practical tips on how to reduce your energy consumption as a business. What steps can you follow? What tips and advice can I give you that may enable you to reduce your cost base? And actually reducing energy consumption is at the moment, with the high prices, probably the best way to make commercial savings. Methods to make those energy savings, there are numerous areas that we can explore around billing, around contract end dates, and other schemes that you can explore to actually make those commercial energy savings. There's going to be a bit of detail on the government energy relief scheme, what's currently operational and what's coming in the next couple of weeks by way of support, and then specific guidance on wider operational cost savings that you can make across your business outside of energy, such as water, merchant services, telecoms and insurance. So we're going to go into a little bit of detail on some of these areas to understand better how as a business you can save money. So what does the current landscape look like? It's been a tough 18 months, but possibly more so 2 to 3 years. We've had soaring energy costs over the past 12 months, particularly around electricity prices, which are pegged to gas prices. So both have seen triple-digit rises and have impacted every business across the country, but more importantly, globally. And those challenges remain with us now. So if we look back a couple of years, we were trading at circa, 4 pence, 3 pence for gas and 15, 16p for electricity. Those numbers grew exponentially to highs of 30 pence for gas in a retail capacity, and circa 90 to £1 for electricity, which at the time was entirely unsustainable and continues to cause issues both here and abroad. And whilst recently we've seen that wholesale prices have fallen, energy broadly is still very expensive. And wholesale gas prices remain very, very high, as do wholesale electricity prices. But the key concern here has not been around, the impact of energy prices, but it's been the wider impact on supply chain and how that's affected everything that we do in a day-to-day capacity as consumers, but more importantly as retailers and as businesses and as manufacturers. The amount of energy that we consume and the impact that's having on our budgets. The key concern over the last 18 months has been the war in Ukraine. That has been with us now for 12 months and continues to impact energy prices. But Brexit has been a further challenge, and I think sometimes that's been missed by many of the commentators, rather aligning more to just the impact of the war, but wider. There have been specific issues around supply of energy, around production of energy, but the wider cost implications of producing energy. And there continues to be volatility in the market. There is a pressure point around the amount of supply, but also the impact of oil and the price of oil and how that's calculated. But ultimately, in the current environment, we're seeing some benefit in the reduction of wholesale prices, and that's filtering through to the retail prices that we experience as we try to procure energy for our businesses and us as consumers. And so therefore we're in a landscape now where volatility continues to be strong, rising prices followed by falling prices, continuing by rising prices. So if we look back at the summer of 2022, traditionally where we would have always seen a fall in wholesale energy prices as we lead up to winter and there's a surplus of stock and supply. Well, actually, the converse happened last year. We saw an exponential rise in wholesale gas and electricity prices last year, and then that had a significant impact on the market. And again, traditionally, where we would see a reduction an increase in wholesale and gas and electricity prices in winter, well, actually, the converse again, we've seen a significant reduction in wholesale electricity and gas prices over the course of winter, starting in mid-December through to where we are now, where we've seen a circa 50% drop in both. So it is a challenging landscape. It's extremely difficult to navigate. It's extremely difficult to actually pinpoint when might be the right time to hedge your energy as a business. If you're able to watch the markets, it will demonstrate itself that there is potentially no good time at the moment to work out when is best to procure. So to give you some examples, we recently supported a small independent business on a high street in London in procuring their electricity and gas prices back in January. And the suggestion was that prices had dropped 40% and therefore they should look at procuring. But through no fault of their own, they weren't able to take that supply, and it took a further 4 weeks, in which time the prices dropped a further 10%. So in many respects, when is a good time to take the right contract for your business? And hopefully we're going to be able to provide some support and guidance today on giving you the information you need to make the best possible choices for your business. So the current energy crisis, global energy markets have faced tightening conditions since 2021. That there have been some specific challenges, as I mentioned, due to COVID-19, and there's been significant demand as we started that recovery from COVID-19. The energy crisis obviously worsened in February 2022 after Russia invaded Ukraine. And that's also created an element of surge in natural gas prices and subsequently energy price hikes in various markets. The energy crisis has also led to a surge in oil prices, which again reached the highest point in 2008. And we've seen significant impact on economies across the country. So there's a short amount of detail here and potentially quite difficult to understand, but I'll do my best to explain. But the graphs here show the wholesale cost of gas and electricity. And over the short term, you can see a picture developing of what's been happening to gas prices of late. So we've gone from perceived lows in middle of January this year to a circa 20% increase by the end of January, dropping back down again, rising and then dropping again, so that there continues to be that level of volatility in the market. It's worth noting that whilst gas prices are perceived to be quite low at the moment, they are still circa 100% higher than where they were 12 months ago, 18 months ago. And so whilst now seems to be a great time to contract services, our recommendation to many of the businesses that we support is to only look at a short-term contract for circa 12 months at the moment, because the hope is there that prices will fall further. And actually just covering yourself over the course of the next 12 months, including the winter that's coming, which will prove to be that much more challenging, it is important. But the hope and certainly the forward plan from energy suppliers and futures is that they are looking at a reduction in 2024 and beyond. But the current landscape, as you can see, continues to remain challenging in that space. To the right, you have a graph that shows power prices, and again, extreme volatility, in fact, more so than possibly the gas markets. But again, you've seen lows of just touching 200 therms, and highs of up to about 800. And the market for electricity is pegged to gas. So in many respects, the curves are very, very similar, but we certainly don't have a level of stability that we've been accustomed to over the last, say, 5 to 8 years in the energy markets. And again, electricity prices continue to remain volatile, but are at historic lows, and historic meaning 12-month lows. And again, probably about circa 100% higher than where they could be and should be. So this time last year, we were looking at prices of about 60 pence per unit as the war started to take off. Prior to that, we were at around 16 to 18 pence per kilowatt hour. In the current climate, we're back down to a level that some feel is acceptable, and many feel has bottomed out at about 29, 28 pence per kilowatt hour. So we're going to talk a little bit about the energy price cap and what it means to businesses. So the government introduced a scheme back in October 2022, which was to support businesses at the time where energy prices has hit those historic highs. We'd seen over the course of summer 2022, particular rises to the point where gas prices were hitting 25 to 30 pence per kilowatt hour, and electricity prices hitting about £1 per kilowatt hour, and higher with some suppliers. And the government introduced a scheme to support businesses and public sector organisations, providing a direct discount on wholesale gas and electricity prices. And this was pegged to the time that you would have taken out a contract, going as far back as the 1st of December 2021, enabling level support to all businesses cross-sector, across the regions, at a level that the government felt at the time was acceptable. And that level was 34.5 pence per kilowatt hour for electricity and 9.1 pence per kilowatt hour for gas. And many have seen, and you will have seen on your bills, those discounts being applied from the 1st of October. They would have taken effect from the 1st of October, but seen on your bills from November and December onwards across every supplier in the country. And that scheme will continue to the end of March this year. And the cap has automatically been added to those energy bills. And therefore, in some cases, we've seen businesses that had procured contracts, inefficient contracts at, say, 60, 70 or 80 pence a unit, seeing quite a significant discount being applied to their bills as a mandatory discount funded by the government and delivered by energy suppliers. And that scheme has proved invaluable to sustaining many of the businesses that exist on our high streets, and particularly for the manufacturing industry that was particularly hit by the immediate rise in energy prices, given that they had fixed or flexible contracts that they were adhering to. That scheme is shortly due to come to a close and will be replaced by the new energy bill discount scheme. This is a scheme that was launched in January of this year, and there was a need for revision to the existing scheme. I think the government understood that actually the scheme that was being delivered was costing far too much to implement, but at the same time there had been a significant drop in wholesale gas and electricity prices, and it was deemed inefficient to continue with that scheme, and therefore a revised scheme which will be delivered for 2 years, an initial 12-month period, but likely to extend thereafter. And it's a scheme that's applicable to all commercial tariffs across the UK and Northern Ireland, and businesses will automatically have those reductions applied to their bill in the same fashion that they have on the relief scheme. It's the same criteria, it's a very similar scheme, and will be implemented by suppliers once again. But the discounts are now pegged again to the wholesale price of gas and electricity, but with a specific cap. And therefore, the majority of businesses are seeing circa 10 to 20% reduction in their bills, depending on when they procured their contracts and the rate and tariff that those contracts are on. But actually, the majority of businesses that have now procured energy contracts in the last 2 to 3 months are already falling below the energy bill relief scheme. And therefore, whilst they'll receive a level of support on the discount scheme, in the current climate, they're receiving no support from the current scheme. And therefore, that's why you're seeing the new scheme come into effect. As the slide states, that if your business is already paying 10.7p or less per kilowatt hour for gas, or 30.2p or less for electricity, you won't receive any support on the new scheme. Current gas and electricity prices are in the region of anywhere between 8 to 10 pence for gas, depending on your consumption and the region that you exist within. And for electricity, have just fallen below 30 pence per unit for a standard tariff on a fixed rate over 12 months with the majority of suppliers that we're seeing. So actually they're on par with what the scheme's cap is. If you don't consume as much as a business, then you may pay more than what this cap has been set at. Therefore, you will receive a level of relief on the scheme. But that's yet to be determined, depending on when your contracts renew and when your supplier provides you with a renewal quotation. So what steps can you take as a small business to reduce your bills? So we're going to just touch on some practical tips and advice on how to reduce energy consumption and exploring renewable energy alternatives that may be applicable to your business. Some of those may require investment, and in many cases, there are some grants available through local and national bodies that you may wish to explore. But we're also going to be talking about your contract end dates and how you can review those and be best prepared in advance of an energy contract renewal. And we're going to look at the wider operational costs for your business. So when we look at a traditional energy bill, I think, from our experience of working with businesses across the country, we find that many businesses just aren't on top of their bills. They tend to receive a bill and pay the bill, and then it's put to one side. Suppliers have become that much more digital over the last couple of years. So in some cases, they no longer send you bills. They expect you to log into an online portal and retrieve your billing information. And there's several things that happen there. One, you don't have the time or energy to invest in doing that. So it's left by the side. But two, it's a great way for suppliers to alleviate themselves of the issues relating to estimated billing, inaccurate billing, letting you know when your contract's due to end, and various other elements. So that's become a challenge, not receiving your bills. But when you do receive bills, much of the information you need as a business is within that document. It's law that an energy supplier should put the contract end date on every bill that they send out. So for example, with British Gas, on the front page of a bill to the right-hand side, there is a shaded area which identifies your contract end date. With Opus Energy or E.ON Energy, on the back of the bill to the right-hand side, there is a column that identifies your contract details, which is your contract end date, the package that you're committed to, but also the unit rates that you're committed to and your estimated annual consumption. And that's all useful information for you as a business, because it's great to understand over a rolling 6-month or a 12-month period how much energy you're using, and is that changing year on year. So if you reflect back on your bills over the last couple of years, if you have access to them, you can very quickly identify your shift in pattern of use of energy on a monthly, on a quarterly, or an annual basis, just by simply pulling that information together from the previous bills. But look, the most important thing is to know the detail around your contract. Understand when your contract end date is. If it falls within the next 6 months, you really should be scoping the market now to just benchmark what energy prices are doing at this point in time, and getting some advice from the market, from brokers, from suppliers, on what they feel the market might be doing in the next 6 months. But always being on top of that is important. It's important to know when your contract ends. It's a bit like a mortgage. You would always know when your mortgage is coming up for renewal, and being on top of that and being in the market early to understand the impact financially on you as a person. And that's the same in your business. And actually, with the rising cost of energy, for many businesses that we engage with, energy has now become the biggest cost to their business. It's become a priority, and therefore just being that much more prepared is quite important. So going on to evaluate how much energy is being used. If over the last couple of years you've implemented any measures around becoming more efficient as a business, whether that's inputting new technology into your business, whether that's putting in refrigeration units or more efficient heaters, or changing to LED lighting, measuring the efficiency of those elements that you've implemented can all be achieved by reviewing your bill, because that will detail the usage that you have in kilowatt hours. And you should see a material reduction on those bills if you are reviewing that information on a monthly or a quarterly or annual basis. And so again, it's important to check your bills and make sure that data is true and consistent with what you may have been sold as an ideal, or what you've been told by way of a reduction. Ensure that your usage is not estimated. Time and time again, we come across businesses that are being billed inaccurately by their supplier. This may in part be because many suppliers have not been rolling out their meter reading campaigns as they were pre-COVID. It's become that much more harder for them to pull that resource together and manage that. But they also put the onus on businesses to actually conduct the readings themselves and supply those on a regular basis. And there are some real challenges with not being on top of your meter readings and ensuring that you're paying for the right amount of energy that you use. And a recent example we had with a business was that they wanted to move contract. They wanted to take a cheaper rate with another supplier, and were unable to do so because they'd been underpaying on their bills for the last 12 months. And the incumbent supplier, would not let them move without clearing the debt that had been built up on the account. And that debt happened to be £7,500. So ensuring that you're being correctly billed by your supplier, it falls on you as opposed to falling on the supplier. And the challenges that you may face going forward are that you receive a very large bill at the end of your contract period for energy that you've consumed but you've not paid for. And the opposite to that also exists. The reason you need to make sure that you're providing those meter readings to your supplier is so that they are billing you at the rate that you've committed to as part of your contract, but for the consumption that you've used. And again, in some cases, we see suppliers overbilling customers for energy that they haven't consumed, but it's purely based on an estimate from historic billing from either a previous tenant or what that they deem as a supplier that building should be consuming. And in many cases, once you've overpaid, it sometimes proves that much more difficult to actually get a refund from suppliers. A recent instance we had with a very large business, professional service business in London, it took us 9.5 months to get a £3,500 credit back for them. And much of it was based around inaccurate billing and estimation. but the amount of proof that we needed to provide the supplier was incredible. Going back and sourcing 9 months of bills, that takes time out of your day, out of your business, and energy that you could focus elsewhere in growing your business, rather than resolving an issue that can actually be resolved at source just by providing the right level of detail. And there are steps that you can take to resolve that. So if you don't have a smart meter installed in your property, then potentially now's the time to consider that. There is a rollout of a scheme to install smart meters across the country. It's been operational for a number of years. And as a business, if you've not undertaken the request from your supplier to have that smart meter installed, it would be a great time to do so. It just ensures that you are billed exactly for what you consume in a billing period, and also they're half-hourly billing, so you can mitigate rising costs by switching equipment on and off at the right time, and be billed by the half hour. So they're a great step forward in terms of technology, but it also removes that element of estimation and provides clarity both to yourself as a business, but also to the supplier as well for what they should be billing for. And previously there were suppliers that would offer slight discounts if you had a smart meter. So SSE were one of those suppliers that provided a discount if you had a smart meter. So there are some wider benefits for considering the switch to the provision of smart meters. But the other important thing to look at when you're reviewing your bills is just working out what you're being charged for. There are a number of areas on a bill that accrue charges. So one which we've touched on here is what you consume. So that the number of kilowatt hours that you're consuming in a period, B, the definition of what is the period. And it varies by suppliers. So you will have some suppliers like British Gas and E.ON that bill you monthly. You will have other suppliers like SSE that bill you quarterly. And then you have suppliers like EDF that bill you every 6 months, unless you specifically ask for a shorter term. And that presents itself with some challenges as well, because if there is an anomaly on your bill, or there is an issue, or you've fallen out of contract on your bill, well, you may not find out for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, or in the case of EDF, 180 days, by which point, trying to rectify that issue and going back over that period and asking for an adjustment is quite challenging. So actually just managing your bills and reviewing them as they come in is vitally important. And I was with a business in Richmond yesterday, a very large business, who received a £20,000 bill for a month. They had a recent refurb. It's quite a large property. Their heating engineers came in and installed various amounts of heating. But whilst they were testing the heating, they naturally had to switch the heating on in each one of the rooms. Now, the technology that's been installed in this building is incredible. It allows you to control everything from an app, and control various zones and rooms, which is phenomenal. But due to human error, every point in that building was left on 24-hour timer, and the first bill didn't arrive for 30 days. And so 30 days have elapsed and a £20,000 gas bill has arrived at the business, which unfortunately they've consumed the energy and therefore need to pay it. So look, as much as I'm saying review your bills, human error is natural and it can happen. But at least if you can do everything you can as a business to be on top of that, then you'll be in a much stronger position. And in the instance of that business, they hadn't contracted their gas, they let it lapse, and therefore, whilst it's a £20,000 bill, potentially it could have been a £5,000 bill, but we're supporting that business on their journey at the moment, and that's what we do as an organisation. It's about providing that level of support. So look, be aware and active of what can and can't happen on your bills, and hopefully you won't fall into the same trap that others have around estimated consumption, falling out of contract, and just being on top of how much energy you consume. So going back to identifying contract end dates, I think it's really important that you know when that period is. Traditionally, it was always great to renew your energy contract in September, October, or November, because your renewal window would open potentially 6 months before, and therefore you'd be considering a renewal in spring stroke summer, which traditionally had always been the best time to procure an energy contract, as the seasonal fluctuations in energy prices enabled better deals to be had in the summer months. That certainly shifted over the last 12 to 18 months. We found ourselves in a market where no one broker or supplier or analyst could advise you when would be the best time, which month would be the best time to procure energy. In February, we had the war. By March, April, we'd seen extreme highs. They started to level off and settle by June. And we then found ourselves in an extreme rising market in late July and into August and into early September. And there seemed to be no end to that. So many businesses that we were supporting last year that weren't heeding our advice around securing contracts in mid-May and into June felt that actually that traditional window that was going to open for them in July and August would be paying dividend, and they would see a huge reduction in energy prices. Well, the converse happened. We saw an increase, a significant increase. And therefore, just being aware of your renewal window and making sure that you're capturing as much information from the market as possible in advance of that is important, because yes, you do have 6 to 12 months to renew your contract. The market's changed significantly. So whilst previously you could look at securing a contract 6 months prior to a contract end date, we now see businesses procuring contracts 9 to 12 months in advance of their contract end date. And just last week, we supported a business that's due to renew on the 1st of January, but they felt that they'd hit a price point that they were comfortable with and wanted to procure a 12-month contract well in advance. And so, for that business, it was important for them to budget for the next financial year at this point, as opposed to waiting and seeing what the markets would do and how the winter season would develop for next year. So yes, certainly look at your contract end dates, work out when the most optimum time you feel maybe to renew, talk to a broker, talk to a supplier, go to third-party websites to gain insights into the market. But a good supplier and a good broker should review your price and provide you with an indicative quote at a very early stage, and that in itself is useful to enable you to benchmark and budget. But by no means, do you have to contract services at that point. For many of the businesses we work with them over a prolonged period of time, providing them with market guidance and insight over a monthly basis, enabling them to build up a picture of what the market is actually doing for their business based on their individual circumstances, and then providing that support at the right time for them. But many businesses don't review their on contract end dates. Many businesses fall onto these deemed and out of contract rates. And to give you an example, at the moment, the current out of contract rate for a energy supplier in the market is £1.10 per unit, whereas the market is trading at about 30 to 35 pence per unit. And the price of kilowatt hours is just one aspect of that out of contract rate. Standing charges are where many suppliers have started to make an awful lot of money by bulking those up. And whilst we've seen an increase in standing charges from circa 20, 30 pence to 50, 60 and 70 pence a unit, if you happen to fall onto an out of contract rate with a supplier because you've missed your contract end date, those out of contract rate standing charges can be as high as £10 per day with some suppliers, and it's not uncommon to see anywhere between £3 to £6 per day with a supplier, and so that's the equivalent of £150 per month based on £5, which is £1,800 a year. And many businesses we see remain on these out of contract rates for a number of months. And it's only when they see the impact on their financial statement from the bank that the penny drops, that something doesn't seem right. My energy bills have gone exponentially high. And that's where we're able to provide that advice and support. So there's a few steps you can take when your contract is due to end. The first thing is that you need to give your termination notice. And that's a simple email to your energy provider to advise them that you're not going to be renewing direct with them. You're quite happy to stay with them and move on to a variable rate, but you certainly won't be rolling over onto a new tariff. And most energy suppliers have the facility on their website or an email address that you can send a termination notice to. And that's an important step to follow, because it frees you of any liability to remain with that supplier for a fixed term beyond your current terms. And it puts you onto a rolling 30-day tariff, which means that if you do happen to fall out of contract, you can then immediately move with 30 days notice. And again, talk to brokers, talk to suppliers, obtain market information, and work with the industry to get a better deal at the right time for your business. And so I've touched on working with brokers and how they can benefit with you as a business. The only way you can really ensure you're receiving the best possible price is to evaluate what's offered from a variety of energy providers. We work with about 25 different providers across 3 different platforms. So we try to provide as much information back to businesses as we can from a variety of sources, whether that's direct to market sources, directly with suppliers, through third-party intermediaries, or in many cases, making recommendations to a business to actually pick up the phone and talk to their current supplier direct to try to renegotiate terms. And sometimes that's the best way forward, depending on the circumstances of your business. You may have a poor credit rating, or you may have particular criteria that means you can't switch or won't switch to another provider. And so actually having that relationship with your current provider is important, because by renewing direct with them, even if they're broadly, close to the market average, may actually provide some wider benefits to you as a business to alleviate the need for a credit check, for a switch, and for anything to go wrong. And look, here at Place Support Partnership, we're a funded organisation. Therefore, we always ensure that businesses get best value from everything that we do. So much of the work that we do, the proposals that we put together, and the benchmarking exercises that we run actually enable businesses to make informed decisions. And it's our recommendation to always use the information we share with you as a benchmark to then go back to your current provider to negotiate terms with them, as it's always the best way forward. It prevents the need for any objections or contract transfers, and simplifies the process. But should that not be an avenue that you can pursue because you've had a poor experience with that supplier, the customer service hasn't been great, they've estimated your billing and charged you far too much or far too little, and you really want to move away, then actually working with brokers is a great way forward. They have a wealth of knowledge, intelligence, and experience around the energy markets, and can guide you on whether you should be taking a fixed term contract or a flexible contract, or a blended product that might suit your business better if you're a particularly high consumer. Depending on the type of meter you have, there are various products out there to support your energy renewal. And if you're a particularly high consumer or a corporate business, then it's likely you will have a half-hourly meter. And those kind of meters require a specific type of procurement to be undertaken, where services are tendered out to the market based on your consumption for a year, and prices are received from the wholesale market on a particular day and discussed with you as a business, providing you that advice and guidance on what may be best for you in the current climate. Even small businesses can benefit from a procurement tender. So whilst there are fixed term products that are available to the majority of businesses with smaller meters that exist on our high streets and in our towns, actually you can suggest a wholesale market tender. Some suppliers will do it for you, others won't. But certainly, you know, in a falling market, sometimes spot pricing on a particular day is better for a business as opposed to a book price that exists sometimes for several weeks at a time. And so you kind of don't really get the benefit of the falls, the sharp falls sometimes in the energy markets. There are different products and contracts available from electricity and gas providers, and I think sometimes some of those are missed by suppliers when they're talking to you direct. They don't give you as much information as you may need. Ultimately, when you're talking to a supplier direct, you are still only talking to the sales division and retail division of that supplier. And so whilst it is a brand that you're picking up the phone to, it is a sales team, and their aim is to hit to target and sell you a contract. And certainly from our experience over the years, we've seen sometimes that actually suppliers direct don't always provide the best value in terms of advice, contract price, and you know, at times it's inefficient to take a contract with certain suppliers. So you know, do take advice from the market and go to various sources to build up a better picture of what's actually happening in the community. But one thing I would say is, you know, don't be pigeonholed into working with a single supplier. You know, there's a common tactic amongst brokers, which is to sometimes softly pressure or with hard pressure to advise businesses that markets are always rising, they're going in one direction and you need to sign by 4 o'clock on the day. That certainly isn't the case, and all I would suggest is an extra 24 hours isn't going to hurt to just take a better perspective on the market and talk to other sources. And certainly the businesses we support, you know, they go out to market and sometimes achieve better rates than what we can as brokers, just by taking that time to carry out a full assessment. So yeah, do benchmark your rates. You know, do go out to a variety of energy providers, and do take the time, more importantly, to ensure you're getting the best deal in the market, because when you are locking in, you're locking in for a significant period of time, sometimes anywhere between 1 and 3 years. And, you know, the impact on the business can be significant in a rising market. So we've talked about energy contracts, we've talked about renewal dates, and are there any other charges that are potentially applicable on your energy contracts that you should be aware of? Well, there are a few that you can't change and are dictated by the government, and that's VAT and the climate change levy. And whilst VAT is reduced for some businesses to 5%, for the majority it still remains at 20% for our energy bills. The climate change levy is a levy that was introduced some years ago, all around supporting us as an economy and being more sustainable. And it's a levy that's funding solar panel installations and fit charges, feed-in tariff charges that are all extras to your bill. So actually, when you consider an energy contract, whether you are talking to a supplier or a broker, it's always important to ask the question that, are there any additional charges? Some quotes do include VAT and do include climate change levy and feed-in tariff charges, but some quotes don't. And each supplier has their own criteria as to how they quote your supply. And so therefore it's important to ask the question, because the climate change levy is about 0.8 pence per kilowatt hour, or in the region of. So it will add a portion to your monthly bill, and certainly VAT. So SSE, for example, don't include feed-in tariffs, but do include other charges. And that's similar with other business energy contract suppliers. So a number now include all charges as a single unit rate, but then you have the converse with others that separate it out. So it's important when you receive a quotation, wherever that quotation has come from, that you ask that question: are there any additional charges? What about the climate change levy? What about VAT? What about feed-in tariffs? Some businesses are excluded from paying certain charges, but again, it's important to get that clarity from the supplier. A capacity charge is a charge that's only related to half-hourly meters, so high consumption meters. So if you have a particularly large property, or if you're a business that consumes a significant quantity of electricity, then it's likely you will have a half-hourly meter at the site that you occupy. And depending on the capacity of that meter, you will be charged a capacity charge per kilovoltage ampere. So the charges are variable, they vary by supplier, and you will also receive a further contract charge from the meter operator for a contract for anywhere between 1 and 5 years. And it's important to know the capacity of your meter, but more importantly, from your billing information or speaking directly to your supplier, understanding if you are actually nearing that capacity or if you're quite far off. A recent business we supported had occupied an old Debenhams building in Norfolk, and they'd had that building occupied for 12 months, but were significantly being overcharged on the capacity charge. And when we reviewed and audited their bills, we very quickly understood that the capacity charge was still at the level as if this was a fully functional department store, whereas this was a small micro charity that was operating one floor of a 5-story building. And so we were able to identify and support that business in achieving a £2,500 reduction on the capacity charge. And so these charges are quite significant. You know, for that business, it was the equivalent to about £225 a month in commercial savings that we were able to identify just by simply reducing the capacity of the meter. So it's important to understand your capacity charge if you have that particular type of meter, understand if you're actually nearing that capacity charge, and if not, and then certainly during COVID, we saw a significant volume of businesses take the steps to temporarily reduce their capacity charges as they weren't consuming as much energy as an organization, and then ramping it back up at the time where they felt that they were reaching a level where they were trading at that same level. So the risks of being out of your energy contract, I think I've briefly touched on this already, but if business users do not communicate decisions to renew or terminate, you'll fall onto an out of contract rate. And there are excessive charges. I've touched on that briefly already, but they are exponential. They're circa 3 to 4 times what the rates would be if you were in a contract. And those rollover contracts do exist. And it's always better to be on a slightly more competitive tariff than rolling onto an out of contract tariff. And if you are on an out of contract tariff, then do get in touch with your supplier and look to contract services straight away. If not, talk to a broker or a third party to see if there are steps that you can take slightly quicker to avoid being on those deemed and excessive charges. So how can you reduce your energy consumption? Well, there's a few key ways that we feel that businesses could reduce their consumption. So conducting an energy audit within your organization is fairly critical to understanding the footprint of your business and its energy usage. And that's anything from electrical equipment that you employ within the organization, air conditioning systems, heating systems, but also reviewing the bill and understanding the usage, and building up a picture of that consumption and when you have your peaks and troughs of usage, but also how much do you consume in a day, you know, and in a week, and over the course of a weekend, if that's your busiest period, and understanding how you can reduce that consumption by taking steps to either switch switch equipment off or switch lighting off. We recently worked with a business to carry out an audit within their organisation, and it became very clear that they were switching equipment on 3 to 4 hours before they actually needed it. And the rationale there was that a member of staff felt that everything needed to be on and needed to be heated. But whereas that wasn't the case. We worked with another business recently where, on a Monday, it was the quietest period, but they would treat it as if it was a Saturday. So everything would be on, fryers, heating equipment, clay oven, everything was absolutely on all the time. And when you approached the staff member and asked the question, you said, well, it was cold in here, so I needed to keep warm. So it would have been cheaper to have employed a heater and heat the facility as opposed to putting all of the equipment on. So that ties in very nicely with raising employee awareness, just providing that level of education and that layer of understanding within the team that actually, look, the impact on the business is significant here, and steps we can take as a team, as a unit to reduce our consumption will make us that much more sustainable as an organization, reduce our carbon footprint, but more importantly, actually, will save us money and enable us to be a sustainable business for a better future. And so some of the programs that we've recently seen with other organizations that have been employed is around just ensuring that you're switching everything off when you leave, doing those visual checks and those physical checks at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day. And that makes a huge difference to a business. But in the case of a business we recently supported, just understanding the footprint of your business. The business concerned had 3 chillers at the front of house and 2 fridges at the back. But when asked the question, what do you do with the food? Well, we leave it here, and those chillers remain on all night. And a simple ask was, how long does it take to get to maximum operating temperature? And it was about half an hour. And how long would it take to move the food to the back? Well, it would take about 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the day. Their opening hours were only 6 hours a day, but they were running 3 chiller units for 24 hours a day, every day for 365 days a year. So by putting in those processes at the start and at the end of the day, and putting on items slightly later than they normally would, when we revisited that business 4 weeks on and they'd implemented the change, the difference on the bill was about £320 per month. And so a significant portion of their usage, about 75% for the equipment concerned at front of house, was reduced. And that's great for the environment, but it's also great for the business. So it's important to carry out an energy audit and to raise employee awareness for those reasons. But invest in high quality insulation. We've seen a number of businesses recently take those steps. Over the last 12 months, there have been various grants available to businesses focused around sustainability and energy and best practice. And many have taken the steps to fund insulation within the organisation, and just keeping that heat in and reduces the need for heating within the organisation. One of the most simplest things you can do is to keep the front door closed. If you're a retail business, having an open door policy is proving to be that much more difficult. So many businesses are now keeping the door closed, and putting a sign on to say that we're open, and that just keeps the warmth within the premises and enables you to save energy. And finally, replace fluorescent bulbs with LED lights. We visit businesses on a daily basis across the country. So, we're seeing some great practice with many businesses moving to LED lighting as it's become that much more affordable over the last 4 or 5 years. But certainly that switch is critical to being more sustainable, but also to reducing costs. So a traditional 50-watt GU10 LED bulb can be replaced with a 5-watt GU10 bulb can be replaced with a 5-watt LED bulb, and that will reduce 90% or thereabouts of the consumption of lighting within the organization. And if you've got multiple fitments and different types of fitments, well, any traditional high street DIY retailer sells the kind of bulbs that you may need within your organization. But if not, there are specific electrical retailers that you can approach to provide you with a comparative bulb, which should hopefully have the same light density and enable you to replace them to make you more efficient. But there are also tools out there on the Carbon Trust and other websites that enable you to conduct a free lighting review and assessment. And should you wish, I can provide detail on that at the end. But you can carry out an assessment of the type of fitting that you have at the moment, the wattage, the usage, how many hours the lights are on, and what the savings may be by switching to a more efficient bulb if you have the detail of the type of fitting and an LED wattage of that specific bulb. We carried out a lighting review for Fenwick many years ago, at the time when LED lights were circa £50 per bulb. But even at that point, there was a significant saving available to the business by conducting a switch of various sections of the retail space, with costs dropping. The payback on LED bulbs is circa 1 to 2 years, especially when considering the price of energy now. That's why you're seeing payback rates drop significantly. So there are certain steps you can certainly take to reducing your consumption. Conduct an energy audit, understand the footprint of your business better, where possible, invest in LED technology and lighting, insulate as much as you can within the organization. But more importantly, if you employ staff, train them and educate them in best practice. But those are very simple steps that you can take to save money. So what renewable energy options are available to you? So if as a business you're looking to invest for the future, for a better future for your business, then there are certainly some key areas that you can look to invest in. So solar panels have probably hit an all-time low in terms of a price point, and many businesses are investing in solar if they have the roof space to enable that. A traditional solar fitment will be a number of panels on your roof, followed by a battery storage unit if that's what you're looking to do in terms of storing energy and using it during peak times. But the savings are on a payback of anywhere between 8 and 15 years, depending on the size of the installation and the type of battery that you're looking to implement. Again, there are specific green grants that are available to businesses depending on where you are in terms of your journey to become sustainable, but also in terms of offsetting your carbon footprint, if that's something you're looking to do, or going towards achieving net zero. Solar panels are particularly useful in doing that. The costs associated with them are quite high. In the region of a 15-panel unit with a battery could be anywhere from £10,000 to £15,000, depending on the type of panels and the type of battery that you're installing, and therefore the payback period is anywhere between 5 and 10 years, depending on the cost of electricity and the amount of energy that can be generated from it. Now, it's quite challenging in inner London to sometimes find that bit of sun to hit your roof, but if you're lucky enough to have that roof, a pitched roof that's potentially south-facing or predominantly south-facing, then you may be in a position to benefit from solar panels. But it's a great way to store energy, to retain energy, and to use energy at the right time, which is predominantly during the day when the day rate charges are that much more. Heat recovery and ventilation systems, we've seen a rise in recovery system. They're particularly expensive to install, but actually the payback period on them has also dropped significantly given the rising cost of energy. And it will significantly reduce your carbon emissions and also reduce your heating costs. So I can provide more detail and information on heat recovery and ventilation systems and solar panels after this event. LED lighting, again, we've touched on that just now. Probably the most economical way to take your first steps in reducing your carbon footprint, but also the very easiest way to reduce energy costs. As in many cases, LED lighting is easily accessible, can easily be switched, and in some cases can be a direct fitment for what you may already have in place. And whether that's fluorescent tubes or bulbs, it's a very easy way to take the first steps on your journey to being sustainable, clean, green, and employing renewable energy. Heat pumps, I think there's some pros and cons with heat pumps at the moment. They're quite large units. They take up a fair bit of space within any organisation or within a domestic setting, but they do significantly reduce the amount of energy that's used to create the heat. And if you've got the right setting, then again, heat pumps are a great way forward. We're seeing the rise in energy suppliers moving towards offering these solutions to commercial and domestic customers. So Octopus Energy were one of the first suppliers to start to offer heat pumps, and they've actually gone slightly further than just having it as an offer, and have acquired an organisation that now manufactures and produces heat pumps. So they're very much cemented to the industry, and a great a great way forward to get more information on the technology and how it can benefit your business. The very first stage is to conduct a survey on site to see if it's a viable solution for you, and then that can be either a video survey that some of these organizations are employing, or it can be a physical survey understanding what technology you have within the space at the moment, and whether that you fit the criteria as an organization and as a site to enable that to be fitted. E.ON Energy have just launched their solar panel fitment initiative as well. So we're seeing EDF shortly launching their solutions as well. So it seems energy suppliers are becoming that much more wise for the need to be seen to be offering renewable energy options to their customers, whether you are in a domestic or a commercial setting. So certainly, explore the options that are available to you through the energy suppliers. Maybe use them as a primary source of information, and then use that information as a benchmarking exercise to explore options with third parties. But I think that's as much detail as I can give you on energy. And so we'll move on to water. So whilst energy is really important, and it's been a huge issue for us over the last 12 to 18 months, outside of energy, we've seen many businesses start to look at other areas within their business that maybe they've not traditionally considered that they could review, but they should review. In 2017, the water market deregulated, much like energy did in the 1990s, and you're now able to procure water in England and Scotland from any supplier that offers it. So regardless of where you are within England and Scotland, you can procure water from about 20 suppliers that exist in the market. And the reason you should review your water and audit your water is mainly due to customer service and the experience you receive from the incumbent. So in the London region, were supplied by Thames Water. Thames Water have created a retail arm to their business called Castle Water, and Castle Water are the billing partner and customer service partner to Thames Water. And there are many other suppliers that exist that are similarly pegged to the incumbent regional supplier, and then they have a regional arm that delivers the billing and customer service experience to businesses. Unfortunately, when deregulation came in 2017, the suppliers weren't really geared up to deliver that level of change, and so for many businesses, they've experienced issues with overcharging and estimated readings, drainage issues and sewage issues, and the costs associated with those, but also having a supplier that takes ownership of it and actually resolving those issues. So that's where PSP have been able to step in and support those businesses managing disputes and resolving issues relating to overcharging and estimated readings. The infrastructure just isn't there for those water companies to come out and manage those readings and manage the issues that the businesses are experiencing. That said, there are some great suppliers that exist in the marketplace, challenger suppliers that have entered the market, the water market, such as Everflow, and they've invested heavily in technology to enable a much stronger customer service experience for the business customers that they've onboarded. And they also have a great customer service team and a dedicated line that you can speak to a human fairly quickly. So there are some great brands that exist within the water market that provide you with a stronger experience, but they also provide you with additional layers of support around sustainable solutions and best practice. The energy market isn't as volatile the water market isn't as volatile as the energy market. So commercial savings on water do exist, but they certainly don't exist on the wholesale price of water. That is static and can't be reviewed. But the savings that are available to commercial businesses are based on the billing and charges that are accrued in addition to wholesale water charges. And so suppliers such as Everflow are able to reduce those costs and provide a commercial saving to businesses against the traditional charges charged by the incumbent supplier. And therefore we see in the region of 5 to 10% saving per annum for those businesses that we review and propose a switch to a supplier such as Everflow. There are other suppliers in the marketplace, but it's important to know that when you move to another supplier, they provide you with an additional layer of information. So they provide you with information about your specific usage, and they measure that on a regular basis, and that's great because it enables you to understand how much water you're consuming as an organization, and the technology and steps that you implement within your business. Are they having a material impact? Are they having a change? And you know, are you saving money and becoming more sustainable? So how can you reduce costs and usage? So any business can benefit financially from conservation and water use, and you know, you can have a great environmental impact, and it can align with your values as an organization. And there's some things that you do need to consider. So if your consumption on your bill looks excessive, then look at how you could recycle and repurpose water. Whilst I've suggested that the water isn't as volatile, we have continually seen an increase in wholesale water rates over the last 5 years. Ever since that point of deregulation, there's been marginal increases, but more have come in the last 2 years than we've seen in the previous 3. And I expect that trend to continue. So where you can, find ways to recycle and repurpose water within your organization, whether that's internally or externally, try to utilize as much of the water that lands on your property or within your property. I've touched on how you can switch to a better supplier and get a more competitive deal, but as I've equally said, that the savings aren't as significant as you'd find in other areas of spend, but there is a clear benefit in doing so. But always submit regular meter readings. Sometimes it's challenging to find our water meters within our organizations, but if you do have access to your water meter and you are able to obtain a reading, certainly go and provide that meter reading to your supplier and make sure you're only paying for what you consume. to touch on merchant services. So outside of energy and water, another area of spend, particularly if you're in the retail space, is merchant services, whether that's online gateway solutions or retail solutions that are terminal-based solutions for businesses. We've seen a specific growth in the use of phones, smartwatches, and other digital formats to make payments, and a reduction in many senses in the cash economy, and a move to digitization post-COVID. And that's required many more businesses to move to taking digital payments within their organizations if they weren't already. It's certainly a more sustainable form of transaction. It's a cleaner form of transaction, and it also leaves a footprint, which is important both for the business but also for the consumer. Wireless payments are much more convenient, much more efficient, and a faster way of making a payment as well for both parties. And there's certainly a greater level of security due to the authentication process that's involved in making and taking payments. Whilst merchant providers are many, we've seen a rise in new age and digital technology, and I'll be touching on that shortly. But certainly by having wireless payments within your organization, it's only a clear benefit to you. We were with a business several weeks ago that refused to take digital payments and wireless payments. And when asked the question, what happens when a customer comes in and wants to pay with their card? Well, we point them to the cash point that's a couple of 100 meters down the road. And the next question was, how many come back? And the answer was not many, but there was a clear need for them to take payments, but no desire to do so. So it's important to have as many options available to your customers as possible. So whilst cash may be one, or backs payments may be another, having technology, terminal-based technology, or gateway solutions, or open banking, that they're all options that should be available to your consumers and customers. What types of merchant contracts are available to businesses? So the standard technology that we see in most of our high streets are terminal-based solutions. They're generally pegged to banking institutions, so Barclaycard, Lloyds Cardnet, HSBC, WorldPay, and various other providers that exist in quite a saturated market space. And many businesses prefer to bank with a business banking giant and have the technology that banking giant provides them. But that's not always the most optimal contract to have and most effective contract to have. And I'll provide some detail shortly on that. But certainly there's a plethora of suppliers out there in the market. They provide a variety of technology that can be employed within your business, both online and in a physical capacity. And you know, contracted terminal solutions for the high street banks range from 15 to 30 pounds per month for the technology, and then the additional transactional charges over and above that for the different types of card payments that you might take. So whether that's a Visa card payment, a MasterCard payment, a debit card payment, corporate card payments, and then American Express payments, each one with a different fee associated to it, which provides you with two levels of cost within your organization. You've initially got the technology costs, which are renting those terminals for anywhere between 15 and 30 pounds per terminal per month. So if you have a single unit, you're looking in the region of about £300 a year before you've taken any payments. And then when you do take payments, it's a percentage of every single transaction that's put through that terminal. So if you're, for example, taking credit card payments, you may be paying 1.2 to 1.8%, depending on the supplier. And if you're taking debit card payments, it can be as low as 0.2 up to about 0.6, depending on supplier. But the average, let's say, is 1.3%. So on every £1,000, it's costing you about 13 pounds in fees. So if we equate that to a turnover of £100,000 a year, you're paying £1,300 in transactional charges just for taking those payments, and an additional £300 in terminal fees for a single terminal solution in one business. So that's £1,600 a year, so averaging 1.6%. And if you look at that's quite expensive, because it's your money and it's your business and you're taking that. So that there are alternative solutions available to you now. And over the last few years, we've seen the rise in 30-day rolling contracts with certain providers, again, challenger providers such as SumUp, iZettle, Square, and other providers that exist in the market. And their technology is second to none. The CRM systems that they employ and the processes that they follow are all FCA approved, but they offer 30-day rolling contracts with no monthly charges for the technology. The only caveat is that you have to buy the technology outright. And so for a small card reader the size of a mobile phone, as thin as a mobile phone, that is wireless and can be taken anywhere, that starts at around £30 to £40 to purchase the equipment. And to move to a more traditional terminal-based solution that prints receipts, that can be as much as £150 for the terminal. And then to buy a tablet-based solution can be around £100 to £120. So they offer a variety of solutions for every type of business, but generally those contracts are more expensive. They have a flat fee of 1.75% for every type of transaction. So whether that's a debit card, a credit card, an American Express, an Apple Pay payment, or a Google Pay payment, they charge a flat fee of 1.75%. Many of those suppliers will negotiate with you if you have a reasonable size turnover. So one of our clients that we represent as approximately about £1 million turnover and has been able to negotiate 0.9% with one of those providers to retain his business. And similarly, we've managed to support other businesses in achieving 1% across the board, across all those areas. And so there are some clear benefits by staying with those providers. One is that you don't need to be in a 3 to 5 year long-term contract with a single provider. You're always on a 30-day rolling contract with those providers. And if at some point that technology is not working for you, then you can switch. The other clear benefit is that you can add and plug and play more technology to those contracts very, very quickly. Most of those terminals are available on Amazon or directly from the websites from those providers and are delivered next day. And so we recently supported a bank that's traditional, a pub that's traditional contracted terminal solution had failed them, and they were 2 days away from a bank holiday last year, coming out of COVID, peak trading time, and needed a solution. So we recommended one of these providers just to enable them to take card payments, which arrived the next day from Amazon, was set up within a matter of minutes and enabled them to trade throughout a bank holiday weekend. So these technologies are great, sometimes just as a backup. It's great to just have in the drawer and pull out in case anything goes wrong. And the only cost it will be £30 or £40 for the technology to be there and have it all set up. They also prove really useful if you have contracted terminal solutions in your locality but need to go off-site to take payments, then it's great because these are completely mobile and can come with you anywhere that you go. So it's great to have those available, and many businesses run services in tandem. So have the contracted solutions at their main place of work, but also have these wireless solutions that they take with them. BACS, I think it's all very straightforward. If you're a business that doesn't have a retail premises and aren't looking to take payments, then BACS are always a great way forward, and there are limited charges against those. But we've seen the rise in open banking service providers over the last couple of years. And it's all focused around blockchain technology, and open banking is a very different way of doing banking. Whereas with a contracted terminal solution, or SumUp or iZettle, when you as a consumer are going to the retailer and tapping on, that's a request that essentially the merchant is giving you and you are authorizing, and it needs to go through various banking platforms to enable the money to move. And that's where most of the transaction charges arise from, and that's why it costs merchants so much to enable payments. Open banking is a much simpler service, whereby the request is not coming from the merchant to acquire a payment, but instead the payment is just being made by the consumer or the other business to the merchant, and therefore it almost moves or removes a layer of charges entirely. So, for example, with open banking, we've seen payments as low, credit card payments as low as 0.4%, and debit card payments anywhere between 0.1 and 0.2, depending on the provider. And there are a number of challenger open banking providers that exist now, and the technology is smartphone based. So in many cases, you may now go into a retail space and there will be a QR code on the till, and when it comes to making a payment, you may be guided to scanning the QR code, which will take you straight to your bank to authorize a payment. So it's something that we're seeing more of with our banking partners that we work with. And every major national bank is looking at employing open banking solutions if they haven't already. But essentially, you're as a consumer authorizing a payment to an institution or an individual or to a merchant, removing that layer of request and acquisition. So open banking solutions are the future. The only caveat at the moment is that they will only work from your current account. So if you have a consumer that insists on paying with credit card, then actually open banking solutions won't work for them, and it will always be the traditional contracted terminal solutions or the new age digital providers that will be the avenue that they will need to pursue. But if there are cleared funds in a bank, then open banking is the way forward. So how do you choose your merchant card provider? Comparing transaction fees and charges are challenging, and there are always additional fees. One of the most difficult fees to fathom is PCI compliance charges, which many businesses are caught out from and charged anywhere between £10 and £20 per month. So that adds another layer of cost to your overall transaction costs. So you've got your terminal costs, your transaction costs, and compliance charges. And actually, sometimes gaining compliance is quite difficult with some of the providers, as there are many processes and loopholes that you need to close to enable you to be completely compliant. Hence why suppliers like SumUp and Zettle are great, because there are no compliance charges, as their technology is completely compliant and enables you as a business to be completely compliant. So it's important to note that too. I'm going to touch slightly on telecoms. So linking quite nicely with merchant services. To enable merchant services, you need to have a really strong and robust communication network within your organization. In many cases, much of that merchant technology is reliant on high-speed broadband, and much of the traditional technology linked to merchant acquirers still, in some cases, is reliant on phone lines. And so as much as it's great to have great technology on the merchant front, you need to back that up with great technology in terms of comms. PSP offer various solutions, including looking at fixed line, mobile and broadband communications, and of late VoIP solutions as well. It's well charted that there's going to be a switch off of analog lines and analog technology, and everything is moving to a more digital footprint. And so ensuring that you have the most robust systems in place now will provide you with the ability to have a better future for your business and slightly more robust practices. With phone lines, you can have fixed lines, you can have VoIP lines, and that enables, VoIP enables you to use technology in any location, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world for that matter, by simply plugging and playing into the internet and enabling your line. But you can also have more control over your lines, over your employees, and when and where those phones ring. So it's great to be able to implement that within your organization if you're able to align budgets to do so. Broadband is changed drastically over the last 5 years, and it's important to check on your bills what level of speed you have against your broadband supply. In many cases, you can now get double or triple the amount of speed for the same prices you may be paying on your current contract, because prices have come down significantly. So in many cases, we've seen businesses with 100 meg broadband paying £50 per month, whereas similar businesses on the same high street are paying for 200 or 300 or 500 meg broadband at a consistent price. So checking the efficiency of your contracts is important, but that has become that much more difficult to do with certain suppliers. So for example, BT will now only provide you with a printed bill of 3 pages, which details your VAT and a headline figure of how much your bill is. But the breakdown on actually the services that you have with your contract, you can only retrieve if you log in online and capture that information. So certainly taking time to do that is important, because there are various services that some of these suppliers add to your bills, sometimes without your knowledge, and sometimes with your knowledge, but sometimes you've not understood what you're paying for. So there are various lines on that service sheet that you should be aware of and check whether you're actually using those services. Are they valuable to your organization? When you considered taking them, were they valuable, but do you no longer need them? In which case you can very quickly remove a layer of cost from your monthly bill by simply removing those services. So, how critical is itemized billing? How critical is a printed bill if you're now using most of that technology online and are able to log in? How important is that to you? Mobile solutions for remote working, it's becoming that much more important to be able to work from home, or in some cases, as we are at PSP, we're an entirely mobile organization with a team spread across the country, but with no fixed location. So we employ a high level of technology in our processes, in our infrastructure, to enable us to be that much more digital and mobile as an organization. And that's been, a valuable piece for us as an organization, working with our telecoms partner as the enabler. So whilst BT are great and Virgin are great and Sky are great, and we see a number of businesses that are supported by them, actually talking to a third party around the solutions that might be available to you as a business could pay dividend, and certainly their wealth of knowledge around the space in understanding what the differing requirements are for a particular business, treating you as an individual, and making sure that you get the best package for your business is always important. And bolting on additional services, we've certainly seen a rise in businesses seeing a need for less phone lines, greater high-speed broadband, a slightly more included phone system with VoIP technology, but also bolt-ons such as Microsoft Office licenses, and additional licensing of software to enable an all-in-one solution. So if that's something that you haven't done before and you're using different service providers for different services, such as your IT, and then separately your phone lines and mobiles and broadband, considering a single supplier solution could add significant value, having a single point to go to, reducing administration, reducing cost, but also potentially enabling a better experience for you as an organization. So how do you find the best telecom solution for your business? It's always challenging to find the best solution specific to your needs, but certainly research is important, and talking to your current incumbent supplier alongside consulting third parties is always important to enable you to make that informed decision. And as I say, understand what your current needs are at the moment. It's certainly going to be different from a year ago or 2 years ago, but look ahead and consider what needs improving within your organization, and where will your business be in 1, 2 to 5 years time, and how can you future-proof the technology to enable you to grow. VoIP is certainly a way forward. The technology, whilst it's expensive at the moment to have VoIP handsets, it will mean that you won't need to change that technology for the next 5 years at least. So certainly do the cost benefit analysis on how long you will likely need to make that change again. Research the available options by comparing the different features and pricing. I've touched on that briefly, but look at the features that you currently have. Are you using any of them or all of them? And if not, make the amend to reduce the cost. Renegotiate terms with your current supplier. We certainly seen with BT that they're open to renegotiation at times, especially if you're nearing the end of your contract. But also talk to third-party providers, as whilst they offer packages through BT, they may offer packages through other providers too. And certainly, what you're looking for sometimes with telecoms is reliability. And that's critical. So finding a supplier that has a reliable solution, that has a strong customer service experience, is vital. And talk to third parties and independent consultants to gain intelligent and insights on what may work best for your business too. So the areas that you really can focus on with telecoms are cloud and VoIP solutions, as I've touched on, business broadband, fiber and leased lines. There are very different types of connectivity available to you. A traditional broadband is still run through your phone line. It will be relatively slow, and through a modem. Fiber is a stronger line, if you have fiber within your region, will enable you to get much faster speeds. And then leased lines are dedicated lines that are dedicated for your business and are currently in the region of about £250 to £350 per month, but offer exclusivity of use to you as a business and incredible bandwidths. So if you're a high consumer and high user of connectivity and technology and broadband, then leased lines may be a way forward. And what we've certainly seen over the last 12 to 18 months is leased lines being used by entire streets. So where traders associations have come together and felt that actually the broadband in this area is particularly poor, what we want to do is have leased line coming into a single source and then a network being built within the locality. So there may be some benefit in speaking to other businesses within your community on a local level, on a very local level, and understanding if there's a sufficient need to enable a leased line and split the cost across various businesses. We've certainly seen similar schemes with business improvement districts in Cardiff and also Cheltenham, where the BT boxes were upgraded at significant cost privately, and that enabled fibre to come to a specific section of streets within the locality. So again, if BT haven't upgraded your boxes to enable fibre, to enable stronger broadband, then that may be a conversation to be had, and again, a cost benefit analysis to see if there's sufficient demand in the local area and businesses are willing to fund that to enable all businesses to benefit. Mobile, so looking at mobiles, we have SIM-only handsets, packages, and mobile broadband. We've seen many businesses not take on any form of connectivity within their business, or indeed having a fixed line, because actually there are wider benefits to having just a mobile line with a dedicated 03000 or 0333 number auto forwarding to their handset. And that's something that we're seeing more of. And third-party providers and current providers can provide detail on that. So you can have a dedicated number forwarding to your mobile for as little as £10 per month. You can also have a dedicated WhatsApp business account, which sits alongside your WhatsApp personal account, and so that there's no conflict of interest or GDPR. And that costs as little as £1.80 per month. It enables you to download the WhatsApp business app, which is an app in itself focused for your business, and enables you to have a platform and a front of house on WhatsApp for your business, and also enables you to market and promote your business as well. So that's £1.80 to £2 per month for a single user license. And there are various organizations out there that can provide you with a dedicated WhatsApp number to enable you to set up a separate business account and promote your business on WhatsApp. SIM only is certainly the way forward. You know, if you don't need a handset and you have solutions within your organization where multiple employees or directors have handsets already, then actually migrating to a SIM only account will certainly generate savings for your businesses. And that can be in the region of £30 per month per handset, going down from £40 or £50 a month to £10 to £20 a month, depending on the number of lines that you have and the number of minutes that you need free. IT solutions and cyber, IT support, cloud-based and GDPR compliance. Generally, we find that having that single supplier solution enables all of these services to come under one banner. And we have many suppliers that we work with that provide a single supplier solution. So if you're looking at connectivity solutions and are looking for that additional layer of support on IT and cloud-based technology to entirely be GDPR compliant, then do come and speak to me at the end, and I'm happy to make any necessary introductions. But there are some clear benefits in doing so. And finally, we're going to be talking about insurance. So there are various types of insurance that are available to businesses, and ensuring that you've got the right insurance in place is important. So public liability insurance, employers liability insurance, and also interruption insurance are fairly critical. And if you have a retail premises, having contents and portable equipment insurance can prove quite beneficial. We're not FCA approved, so I can't specifically talk to you about specific products and services, but certainly will advise that much in the same way as energy and telecoms and merchant services, being on top of your insurance, being aware of your contract end dates and renewal dates, and making sure that you go out to the broader market and receive trusted guidance and advice from reputable sources is important. But more importantly, on those specific insurances, just making sure that every aspect of your business is covered is quite important. So I'll finish there. If you have any questions, please do get in touch, and do let me know if you need any further support. We can be reached on various social media platforms, but also do get in touch at info@playsupportpartnership.com.